Welcome back. Double on my Festivus beard. I have my Festivus hat. It is 2019, and we are proudly bragging on our partnership with our friends at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute in Owings Mills, of course, at Foundry Row. You drive by it all the time for the weekend warriors out there. A state-of-the-art facility right here in Owings Mills. And as always, the docs themselves, the experts joining us here each and every week. Dr. Kevin Crutchfield is here. We've given Dr. Craig Bennett the week off so he can evaluate my elbow. But, Doc, first off, happy 2019 to you. It's happy around here everywhere. I know your whole office is painted up purple here this week. Life is good for a sports medicine place when the Ravens are doing well, right? It gets everybody talking about sports around here 2019.
Well, the city always has a more rapid pulse, so to speak, when the Ravens make the playoffs.
Well, here we are. And, you know, in your line of work, and I know I always ask you about head injuries and concussions and head-related injuries and all that, the league is so famous for this now, right? Like, this is the movie Concussion and all that stuff. Now that the regular season is done, I would think at some point we're going to start to see these statistics, and I'll be down at the Super Bowl in Atlanta, and, of course, all of our coverage is sponsored by you guys this year, and I'll be sitting there having players come by and talk about their issues and post-football traumas and all of that. The one thing that the league has done through all of the fallout, the bad publicity, the awful publicity that they've had, the deaths that they've had, the players that have come forward and said, I'm having problems with my head after they play, is they've tried to do this. We're not going to hit in the head. We're going to wussify the game. We're going to temp it down a little bit. We're going to tackle with our shoulders, heads up football. We're going to teach kids that. And then you have to measure it, right? So we're through another season. I think the league is going to put forth that there were less head-related injuries this year than in any year. Whatever they're going to have some happy news about this because of the way they've changed the rules to make the game safer, which they've been trying to do. I don't know if they're ever going to really make it safe, and I think you would point that out. But making it safer, if that's the goal, maybe they're on the road to that, right?
Well, it's all about collecting data to start with. And when you look at the data, and they looked at all the concussions last year and the year prior, and looked at the videos of the hits and the injuries, and paid very close attention to what was the mechanism of injury, and how can we change the mechanism and reduce how the injury occurs, and that brought about the rule changes. The rule changes weren't about, making the league, soft. It's about prevention of injury. Because, at the end of the day, the NFL's a business. At the end of the day, the business has employees that get hurt on the job. And they're responsible for some of these players' health for the rest of their lives if they get injured on the job. It's workers' compensation. So how do you reduce your risk as a business for injured employees? And that's you institute safety rules. So you really have to look at these rule changes as, in any other business, making changes to make the job safer for the employees under your watch, so to speak. And, I don't know the data, but I'm hearing that there's more likely than not going to be far fewer concussions this season than we've seen in the past because of these rule changes. So if you go about it in a very scientific way, and it's not about, feelings, beliefs, opinions, or anything like that, it's looking at the data. What happened? Let's go back, let's review, let's take notes on the mechanism of injury, and how can we alter the way the game is played, still make it enjoyable, but make it safer for the employees under our watch so that they have better health outcomes down the future. And, some of the current players will complain about these rule changes, but at the end of the day, it's the men who have played the game prior who are suffering from all these chronic problems that came forth through the players' union back to the league that this is a problem for us. And they wanted to make the game safer.
How long have you been doing head-related injuries and concussion on football-related matters? 20, 25 years? How long has it been?
Well, I went to my med school 30-year reunion, so I graduated medical school 30 years ago, and I pretty much, besides my internship year, which was internal medicine, I've been in neurology for 29 years, and I was in the military. So I trained at Walter Reed, and my first job right out of training was a war zone. So I've been doing brain injury, not sports-related per se, but, young, healthy people doing physically exerting things that traumatize their brain for the better part of over 25 years.
Well, you love football. You've always loved football. I mean, I'm guessing you go back into the Colts in the years we didn't have a team here and the Ravens came here. The concussion thing from a fan standpoint, from the modern vernacular of what a ding is and what a buzz is and what a stinger is and all of these things that were in the John Madden, jocularity vocabulary. Man, in your world, when you saw these guys getting their heads taken off 20 years ago and examine the helmet and you know what goes on inside at what point did you really believe the NFL made a move? Like, what was the thing that even from a medical standpoint you would say, all right, they're sort of seeing it now, even though it's a financial thing and you pointed out insurance and the health and the humanity of all of it, it's still football. At what point did you think that they started to move in the right direction? Because clearly they are at this point, right?
Well, I was personally there in the Rayburn building on Capitol Hill when the Players Union brought the league before Congress. I got there early so I could be in that small room. I literally was sitting 2 rows behind Roger Goodell.
What year was that? Is that 7, 8, 9? What year was that?
Oh, my God. I don't remember off the top
I'm going to Google it and find it, because I'm trying to figure out how long ago that was, right?
That day was what I consider the watershed moment. That was the peak. That's when things changed. When the NFL was basically told by Congress that they were going to lose their anti-tax exemption and their antitrust exemption if they didn't take the concussion issue seriously.
By the way, October 28, 2009, so we're almost 10 years in.
Right. That's the day that changed everything. From my perspective.
Well, and it certainly is moving in the right direction. Dr. Kevin Crutchfield is here. Concussion and head-related injuries, what he does, they do it all out at Foundry Row. The new game plan for sports-related injuries, backed by the surgeons and the doctors who treat the pro athletes. We're going to have Dr. Craig Bennett on next week. At some point, he's going to get a look at my elbow, which feels like it's getting a little better, but not better enough. And I need to get out there and check this thing out because it's been about 4 months for me. Doc, I want to talk to you about something that's very, very important to me, as you well know, my wife. And my wife and I did a Tony Robbins retreat a couple weeks ago, and as you know, there's goal setting, and as our friends at Planet Fitness know, 2019, it's first week of January, everybody's going to get in the gym, they're going to do something new, they're going to have a new goal this year, something they've never done. My wife wants to run a half marathon. I keep saying to her, you're going to run a marathon. She's never said, half marathon, not a whole marathon. I'm like, all right. So you're going to run 13 miles. My wife has had cancer twice. My wife has been a runner in her past, She's had some joint-related stuff, and she's also diabetic. You have something in your television commercials that imagery, and I know we've talked about this, about what you could do for someone like my wife, 45-year-old woman, 2-time cancer survivor, wants to go run because that's what she wants to do after surviving. And you said something to me a couple weeks ago about be careful now. The first step, you need to know exactly how to run, where you're landing. Obviously, I've got some friends out there in the shoe community to get her in the right shoe. I've already made a call to my friend Josh over Trump City Run. So I'm trying to figure out a way to get her to run a half marathon in October, to be able to do that and measure that January 1st, because everybody out there is trying to do something that maybe their body can or can't or isn't ready to do. But I think this is where you come in and we can make some magic happen. Tell me what you could do for my wife, because you are my resource, you and Craig, quite frankly, and Neil Meltzer and everybody over at LifeBridge, that if my wife wants to do this, it's probably not a good idea for her to go down to the corner store and pay less for a $39 pair of shoes and go running around and trying to do 5 miles the first day. She wants to do this the right way, but I know medically you have a way to make this even better for a 45-year-old 2-time cancer survivor, right?
Well, there's no question. We have a movement analysis device. That's probably what you were looking at.
Movement analysis device. That sounds so complicated.
Right. Well, we deal with brain injury. Sinai Hospital, our Department of Rehabilitation is one of just a very handful of specialized brain trauma rehabilitation units on the East Coast. So we deal with a lot of stroke, brain injuries, severe injuries where people just can't move about, and how we analyze their mechanics and make alterations in the way their body moves and help them regain function. we can point this at athletes, and we can analyze, points of contact, center of gravity, stress points, and start to make subtle alterations in the way people move athletically to reduce the risk of injury. We know in the sports medicine community that certain ways that athletes run, depends where your center of gravity is, can certainly increase the risk of certain injuries.
Well, my wife and I, we drive through downtown, and we see people running all the time, right? And sometimes we see somebody running.
Running injuries are overuse injuries from lack of proper training, but more importantly, the lack of proper analysis of how you run. If you're taught how to run properly and mechanically, you're going to dramatically reduce the risk of those injuries.
Well, we see people run through the harbor. I guess I was going to say, we see people with the weirdest gaits, They run up all high, or they run up all low, or they're all crouched over, or they're kind of... They're unwieldy. They don't look like Usain Bolt, you know what I mean, when they're out running.
Well, and the vast majority of those folks are probably under the age of 30. If they continue running lots of miles with that lack of form of running, it's gonna come back and haunt them. Those are the people that need, get down with a trainer that knows how to do, a true running analysis. So, what we want to do is put athletes on the machine, look mechanically how to change things, and work with our folks at Parisi that know how to train runners and get people getting the right center of gravity, the right forces, the right strike points, so that we can reduce the risk of injury, so they can have a longer life as a runner. I always look at people that run poorly, and they're usually under 30. And I always turn to my wife, who's also a runner, and I say, that person's not going to run for much longer if they continue running that way.
It's like a pitcher with bad mechanics. You're going to blow your elbow out, right?
There's no question. I mean, proper mechanics for the body or everything. Now, everyone's built differently. So, I had a golf pro say to me once, I don't try to make everyone swing the same way. I try to maximize everyone's swing with their body type. And that goes a long way. So it's not like we're trying to make everyone run like robots and run the same way. It's how are you built, where are your strike points, where's your center of gravity. So it's really individualized.
I've had so many old guys who get hurt playing golf because golf, Tiger Woods got hurt, right? Golf is you're doing everything one way, kind of, sort of, right? It's like pitching. Your left arm never does it if you're right-handed, right? So I would think if you're doing golf wrong to some degree, it doesn't take long to have problems, right?
Well, it's very interesting to bring that up because in the men's game, a lot of them need their left hip replaced. They wear that left hip out. But interestingly, women have a more pure swing. The ladies aren't getting their hips replaced.
Because they're learning how to do it right.
They're learning the proper mechanics and mechanically swinging. Guys are stronger, and they can just overpower the ball. In order for a woman to drive the ball long, there has to be a perfect swing.
Dr. Kevin Crutchfield is here. See, you think that he just knows concussions and head-related injuries, but we're getting a whole insight here into golf and into running and all that good stuff. Dr. Craig Bennett's going to be here next week on orthopedics. You can find them out at LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute at Foundry Row in Owings Mills. Tell everybody what you're doing out there and why this is such a unique place and our unique relationship getting together every week and just trying to educate and have me ask stupid questions of smart people and get better answers for everybody out there. And I think that that's pretty much what you're set up to do, whether you're a golfer or a runner or whether you've been in a car accident, right?
Well, there's no question. I tell all my patients, I treat all my patients like they're athletes. I want every one of my patients to walk out of here when we're done, be able to lead a more physically active life, because that is a healthier lifestyle. And waiting till something goes wrong to try and fix it with your body, the horse is already out of the barn. Leading a healthy lifestyle going forward is a better thing to do for yourself.
Well, it's fascinating. I told you I did a week-long with Tony Robbins and did a lockdown. And you go through values and limiting beliefs and goals and, do all of that, and you lock down for a week, and you try to make your life better. And you talk about goal setting. When you start to write things down, you say, I want to be more loving. I want to be more caring. I want to make more money. I want to stop smoking. I want to go to the moon. I want to see the safari. You do all of these things, and then behind all of that, you wonder, where's your health in all of that, right? And, I did this personally, and Tony Robbins he used a great example of himself back in the 90s of all the things he wanted to do, and then his health, he's got gigantism, right? My wife's had cancer twice, right? I've had a knee injury. I've had, my feelings hurt. We've all had issues with our physicality, and when that's taken away from me, right now, my wife and I have been battling a cold the last 4 weeks. We can't get anything done, right? And I would say that if you don't have health in the 1, 2, or 3, you say, I love my family, I love my job, I love my kid. Well, you don't love yourself, and your health isn't in that 1, 2, or 3 range. And quite frankly, in my first list, it wasn't in my top 3. And I thought to myself, well, what the hell am I going to be able to do if I don't have that, right? So there is the part where it says LifeBridge Health, Sports Medicine Institute as well. The health part of this, as we kick off 2019, we all have goals, we all want to do something. Boy, if your body's not up to it, you're not there. And I think that that's a good message for everybody to start the year with. And it was a little bit of a cold water for me at a week-long awakening that I talked about all the things I want to do. Well, the first thing I better do is be breathing and be in good health, because the last couple of weeks blowing my nose and my wife's been laying in bed for 3 days sick, that's no way to start 2019, Doc.
No.
That's all you got.
Bluntly, no, that's not a great start. But you know what? It's not an end either.
But taking your health seriously is not the first thing on everybody's list, especially not when they're partying with a hat on New Year's Eve, drinking the champagne. Dr. Kevin Crutchfield, is there anything you want to say about the Ravens this week? You got any predictive thoughts, a little football analysis for us? I know you've been down on the field.
Well, I think if we stick to holding the ball, being an athlete myself, I had a saying when I coached soccer is, it's very hard for the other team to score when you have the ball.
Well, that's what we've learned over the last 7 weeks. Time of possession, running the ball, down in distance, play some defense, and hope for the best, and hope for New England.
The best way to contain opponent offense, we have a great defense, but they're getting more rest, so they're not getting gassed. But the best defense is a great offense, and the best offense is a great defense. So they go hand in hand. You have to have the complete game. But if you touch the ball, and every time you touch the ball you get points, and you chew up a heck of a lot of clock, you put the other team in a defensive mode where they have to try and catch up. They're going to get tired, and the best way to handle opponent offense is don't give them the daggone ball. I mean, I was so nervous at that game they were going to give the ball back to
Mayfield.
The other team.
Yeah, right.
And they did. They gave the ball back to Baker Mayfield, who was playing lights out. I was nervous. When we were 3 and out, I'm like, oh, why did we do that? Let's hold the ball. And the other thing is, Cleveland just gave a lot of people good tape on how to stop the Ravens' running game. Is right before the ball snapped, you cram the A gaps. And we kept trying to run the same plays. We should have learned quickly they were jamming the A gaps and do something else. So we better come up with a game plan offensively to figure out when they learn from tape that they're going to shut down those A gaps, or we're going to have to do something else.
Throw the ball over their head.
Well, quick slant.
Football, it's fascinating. 2 weeks ago, they played each other. They have all of this tape now as to what this chess match is. This week's a lot about the coaches and a lot about decoys and what you did 2 weeks ago, not doing it again. And I think Weddle was such a big part of that game, wearing the helmet and having practiced on a field with Phillip Rivers for 9 years, that he won the first battle. Now, whether he's going to win the second battle or not, that remains to be seen. Doc,
well,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say San Diego got great tape from Cleveland on how to shut down the Ravens running, and I will guarantee you they're going to start that in the first quarter.
Let's throw the ball. Let's win the game.
No, shut down the A gaps. Shut down the Ravens running game early.
That would be a problem for us. And then,
well, that's a huge problem. It's a problem for us in the fourth quarter. This is why we gave the stupid ball back to Baker Mayfield, because they made a change on defense, and we didn't come up with a way to deal with that in real time in the game. And it shut us down. We had to give them the ball back. That's why everyone was biting their nails off. I have no fingernails left.
Nice way to start 2019. We're going to go low and slow this week. 1 o'clock kickoff, cold weather, California team playing at 10 in the morning. I'm going to continue to stick with that until it doesn't work for me. Doc, we will see you next week. I'm going to get my wife out there on so the machine is called the Movement Analysis Device. I'm sure it has a much more scientific name than that, but at least I know about it because I've been wondering about it through the holiday, and I'm glad we caught up. I will see you next week, or 2 weeks from now. I'll see Dr. Craig Bennett next week as well. Always a pleasure to have you on. I always learn something we get together. That's why I love having you on.
Well, I love being on.
Appreciate you. Dr. Kevin Crutchfield joining us from LifeBridge Health Sports Medicine Institute. They are the new game plan for sports-related injuries, backed by the surgeons and the doctors who treat the pro athletes. Have you seen Cal Ripken up on the billboards? Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's right out there in Owings Mills at Foundry Row. State-of-the-art, world-class care wherever you are and nearby. Get on out to Owings Mills and see our docs, and I'm going to have Dr. Craig Bennett on next week, talk more about my wife's half-marathon plans. You can find me out in the buyatoyota.com audio vault 24 hours a day from anywhere in the world on your mobile device by downloading the TuneIn radio app. We do come in crystal clear from anywhere in the world. If you want to watch my fun Festivus hat on the interweb, you can do that on YouTube, on our live channel, as well as our Facebook Live, and I'm always on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and Snapchat and Instagram, and streaming live all over the world. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.